Just remember, Durst is the worst.
Durst the worst, bitch.
I'm Kevin. Nice to meet you. I've worked in the legislature 5 sessions in the Oregon legislature. Used to be the administrator of the Senate Human Resources Committee. Have been doing politically progressive stuff for 40 years. So what matters to me is the face that this city puts out to the rest of the world. And when the context is a white supremacist killing 2 people who stand up against Patriot, and these folks gather, I want the message to go out to this country that this is not a place that is willing to tolerate that kind of hatred. That we think that love is stronger than hate, and we don't want to take away your right to hold your rally. But we want the country to understand that the dominant force in this town, the dominant culture, is one of tolerance and one of diversity and one of acceptance, and not one that is accepting of the kind of intolerance that those folks have brought
to our town. The white supremacist, and I will say he is a white supremacist. I've looked into that. He is a white supremacist. He was not accepted by this crowd. The last rally they had where he went to, he was ejected. So this crowd has ejected him. Yeah, he is not.
Which guy was ejected?
The guy who the DMAT.
Bikers. I went and looked a little more into that. I was actually there on the other side. I saw the bikers actually kicked him out. There were some people who were like, no, let him speak and let him hang out.
Right.
But a lot of, I mean, yeah, fairness. Not all your side has patience and tolerance for that benefit, and vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah. And it is unfair, in a way. I'm over here yelling slogans, anti-fascist slogans, but I understand that there are a lot of people who are not fascists and who are not white supremacists who are on that side of the street, and it's kind of unfortunate to paint everybody with the same brush.
Yeah, that's what I heard when we were over there. We were talking to some of those people in security detail. We were talking to the dude in like the American Spartan or whatever his name was, and they're like, it just pisses us off when they're calling us racist and fascist. Like we're not Nazis.
That's a big reason why I'm here, is because I know that this group is not fascist. I believe they are being wrongfully accused of something, and in my mind, being a white supremacist, being a Nazi, like an actual legitimate neo-Nazi, that's probably one of the worst things you could be. Yeah. I would rather you be Antifa than be a legitimate neo-Nazi.
But here's the part that I would like for people on that side of the street to understand that hate crimes have gone up by over 1,000% in this country since Donald Trump got elected president. So what's happening is that Trumpism, not Donald Trump personally, but Trumpism in general is empowering a mindset that fosters intolerance and creates violence.
I think that mindset is not because of Trump or Trumpism. I think that mindset is because that mindset has been pushed on us. I can take any group, right? If I get a large enough crowd and I get enough people to yell at them and tell them they are something, they will turn into that. You've heard of like the horseshoe effect?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
No, I mean like the horseshoe theory is ridiculous.
I mean, see, I can see the horseshoe theory in play here. So you have an anti-fascist group that has adopted fascist tactics.
It's not fascist tactics.
Okay, adopted authoritarian tactics. Is that a little bit better term?
No, because they democratically arrive.
See, here's the thing.
No, but they democratically arrive at the decisions that they're making. Like internally, it's a democratic process.
Okay, so
anarchists are a form of socialists, and that is extreme commitment to the idea of democracy. That is what socialism is.
Yes,
it says that people should be equal to each other and not have more power if they have more money.
I think you're giving anarchism a wrong definition here. I don't think anarchism is a lack of government. It is not a governing body. It is a lack of government. Just like atheism is a lack of religion, not a religion.
Anarchism is, so if you read Kropotkin and The Conquest of Bread and the original anarchist texts, what it is essentially, what it is, and hell, Marx believed that the end state of communism would be a stateless society, right? And thus, a fully democratic.
Just to clarify something, if I believe that anarchism could work, actually, if I believed it could work, I would be an anarchist.
Oh, sure, yeah, totally.
I agree with the idea. Just like I think that communism on paper is a good idea. But I also acknowledge the fact that these things will not work due to humans.
But here,
it's the human factor that makes
a lot of those people do not want that world. like it's not the problem that they have is not that it's unrealistic, like you. They're saying like, oh, it would be nice if it worked, but it doesn't. They're saying like, no, there should be dominant and subordinate people. There should be traditional power structures,
and I believe
and we should kill people who believe.
I don't agree with that. I don't think they're saying they should kill anybody.
If you told them about state-sponsored execution, like the death penalty,
The death penalty, I actually agree with the death penalty.
Sure. If you could trust the justice system.
I mean, and that's the one reservation I have about that.
And they do. But they want a different world than you do. That's the difference.
If you can definitively prove that a person has, in my mind, the best or the worst crime, not the best, the worst crime a human commit is raping a minor. That is by far the worst possible thing a human can do to another.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with fucking execute. And not even just
what's the acceptable error rate is the correct question. Is it 10%?
Honestly,
is it 20%?
I'd rather it be 0.
Oh, but no, let's say, but what's the acceptable error rate?
1.
Okay, well, they're way higher than that, so it should be illegal.
Yes, and I agree. I think that
but they don't want that world. They want a world where they step over homeless people on the street and spit on them because they deserve to be poor because they were lazy and didn't.
I don't think many people over there would have that idea.
The Republican Party believes that it is individual responsibility that determines somebody's results in life. Therefore, when somebody is poor, they deserve to be poor.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So I think the idea is it is your responsibility to provide for yourself, right? You shouldn't have...
So if you can't, then it's your fault.
Okay, now that said, outside factors excluded.
For example?
Say you have a niche fucking job, right? I'm an aircraft mechanic. That's actually a job. I'm an aircraft mechanic. It is a very niche market, and I go into it recognizing that it is a niche market. There's not many of us, and there's not a lot of job opportunities for us. That said, I've had to find work elsewhere. I'm actually working in a factory right now. It is my responsibility to feed myself. It is my responsibility to defend myself.
And so poor people and oppressed people...
Now, if I was in a market and I could not, say I had no other job skills, I can't work in a factory, I literally could only be an aircraft
Or you live in the 1950s and you're black.
I was going to say,
this isn't the 1950s.
The problem with the free market solution is that there are a lot of people who are not going to be able to compete in the free market. There are people who, through mental disabilities...
So does the safety net not address that?
Who are elderly. There are people who are
people are going to fall through the cracks.
I've got 2 people living on my couch right now who make collectively $700 a month with a mental disability.
What was it, like 9 people died of exposure?
They're trying their damnedest to find anywhere that will take them in Portland, and nobody will take them because they don't get enough money.
In Portland because it was a hard winter.
They're 4 days away from being homeless.
Is proposing a budget that wants to cut social service budgets by a third, domestic discretionary programs by a third. 24 million people would die or be left without insurance. My wife is alive right now because of Obamacare. She got diagnosed with cancer last year, and we probably would not have had health insurance if it wasn't for the fact that Obamacare was there. My father died of cancer in the 1990s because he didn't have health care, and by the time he got diagnosed, it was metastatic. So you're talking about Trump proposing policies that have life and death effects on millions of Americans.
I don't like the healthcare situation as it is now. I don't like the fact that healthcare is outrageously expensive. That said, I don't believe it's a right. Okay? I believe the best way to solve healthcare is not to govern healthcare, but to ungovern healthcare.
Okay, so
have you ever read Adam Smith? The founder of capitalism, the founding patron saint.
Theory of
Adam
sentiment.
Smith, he talks about supply and demand, right? He's the guy who sort of formulated all that opinion. I'm actually a health policy expert. That's what I spent 30 years doing. The health system does not lend itself to supply and demand working effectively because you do not have the necessary preconditions, according to Adam Smith and the capitalist economy, for the market to work. You don't have free entry and access to the market. Hospitals cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Doctors have to have licenses, and there's a limited number of doctors. consumers have to have access to pricing information, and doctors are prohibited by law from advertising their prices. So none of the things that are necessary to make the free market work exist in our
which is why it's not done anywhere else in the world.
And me and you actually agree. Me and you actually agree on this. I think the way it's set up right now is fucked, right? I think that it doesn't need to be more regulation or Obamacare or something like that, socialist healthcare. What I think needs to happen is going to more of a true communist, or not communist, a true capitalist.
But how do you do that when you have a limited number of hospitals, a limited number of doctors, and no advertising?
Deregulate. Right? So you take away the restrictions on advertising, right? You make it where they can't advertise, right? First of all, you open up healthcare across borders. Because like right now, I'm sure you're aware, you can only buy healthcare in your state. Yeah, I mean, there's a few bigger ones, but you can realistically only buy healthcare that is sponsored by your state, correct?
You want the Swedish model, basically.
How well
or I'm sorry, the Swiss model.
Yeah, except
not the
you
Swedish
go to
model.
Prison for not having health insurance in Switzerland, and that's why it works.
And I don't agree with going to prison because you don't have anything. I don't think somebody should be forced to buy something.
So, the function of the free market is that it increases the power of people who already have money, correct?
Negative.
Why?
Because
I have more dollars.
In a true capitalist society, in a true capitalist society, a corporation is defunded by the population, right? I don't like what this corporation is doing, therefore I'm not going to buy their shit. Right?
No.
Now,
they're subsidized, though.
On an individual scale, let's say I have more money than you. I have more power than you. And this is true in a capitalist system. One of the things that I can do with my power is acquire more money, right? Like that is a choice that I can use with my power. Right. So, if you have less power and I have more power, and I use my power to gain more power than you, there will be a split between us, an inexorable split. Please explain to me why that is not the case.
Right, so I'm not familiar with economic politics. That's not my thing.
But as a libertarian, you really should be. You really should know.
It's worth looking into.
No, it is worth looking into. And the reason I'm over here, the reason I'm talking, is I want to not just try to see if I can sway people or convert them over to my side. That's not my intent. The intent of being over here is to have conversations so I can better myself.
Yeah, that's a noble cause.
That is literally my intent for being over here. I want to better myself. And talking to you, thank you for having this discussion.
And you've conducted yourself admirably. I mean,
that's why nobody's giving you any shit.
Right.
Awesome. I kind of came over here thinking it was a hornet's nest.
No, not quite.
Over there is a hornet's nest.
Keep in mind about the issue of monopolies, right? So if you take a look at certain industries, for example, oil, anything in the heavy industries or things like that, it is not economically efficient to run things on a small scale, right? It makes way more sense for Ford to build out big-ass factories, right, and throw their whole production line into that to lower their costs. But the problem is,
true with hospitals too.
Once you run into this issue, you get a number of large what's called a monopoly, then all of the CEOs, and this literally happens. I have family. My grandma helps rich people avoid paying taxes. That's what she does to make her money, right? Which is fucked up. Yeah, I know. I have to. But she's told me about how this all works. And the issue is that all of the CEOs will sit down at the same table together and they negotiate over what prices they're willing to sell things at.
And
absolutely.
So you need regulation.
Absolutely.
So yes, I'm not saying everything should be a free capitalist society. I am saying that there needs to be some regulation, just not in the form that it is or in the form that a lot of people want.
If you guys are anti-monopoly, I mean,
you sound like you're sort of a libertarian type.
I'm more center left.
And I would say my problem with libertarians is that if you take away government regulation, those who have power and who have wealth will use their power and wealth to win in economic competition. And those who are powerless and who cannot command, who don't have the resources to compete effectively in the economic arena are going to lose. So you're going to have greater and greater inequality. And basically, libertarianism just ends up empowering large corporations.
And let's be clear,
and the super wealthy.
Hayek, the guy who wrote the first book, The Road to Serfdom, that founded the libertarian ideology in the 1950s, That was the intended consequence of his political economy. He believed that the extremely wealthy were the ones who advanced society the most, and therefore we should restrict them as little as possible, and it is okay if the extremely wealthy dominate society because they're the ones who push everything forward anyway.
I can agree with that, dominating a certain field.
But all of society. He supported Pinochet in Chile, the military coup that the U.S. backed.
Helicopter rides.
Yeah, tossing communists out of helicopters so that there could be a larger free market. Like
The top 10,000 wealthiest individuals in this country own more than the entire bottom 60%.
But they're also taxed a lot. What are you being taxed? What's your tax rate, if you don't mind me asking?
I make about $100,000 a year, so my top marginal rate is at 27, 28, right?
So you're taxed 28%.
Yes. But no, I get to write off my mortgage interest deduction and my business expenses and some other stuff. So my net effective rate is lower than that, but my top marginal rate.
Yeah, a lot of very rich people pay a net effective rate of 0. So
I mean, I've seen the opposite. I've seen where they're being taxed at 30, 40%,
which is good. They should be taxed more because they shouldn't be spending their time trying to make more money.
Here's the thing. I'm going to look at this as more of a step back and look. How would I feel if I was in their position? Over a quarter of my wealth is being taken. I don't know about you, but I don't want a quarter of my anything.
They figured out a way around this.
There's a really big difference between income and wealth. Okay? Because most rich people are making most of their money through capital gains, and capital gains is being taxed 15%. Okay. So a worker like me or a small business owner like me who's even middle class is paying a higher tax rate on what I earn for wages than Donald Trump is on the capital gains that he produces. That is not the way that the system should be set up. Earned income. Sure.
I have an income around 150,000, 200,000.
Union
I pay about 10% of that to
Trump was a draft dodger, son of a bitch. When I was in Vietnam fighting war, he was a draft dodger.
So was a lot
Fuck him. It doesn't matter. He was a draft dodger. My friend got murdered.
And by the way, thank you for your service, sir.
I don't take that from a Nazi.
That's right. Why is it that we would
just making sure I didn't bring a Nazi flag?
Why is it that the worker
before that day came by, I'm paying 10% of my income in taxes to the federal government. That's not the margin rate. That's if I take all my income and all of my taxes, that's 10%.
Okay.
And that's because of the reduced tax on capital gains, because that's most of my income.
Okay.
And that's where most rich people, their net wealth is much, much greater than their annual income. Yeah. So they are getting their earnings, the vast majority of their earnings, not through wages, but they're getting it through investment.
And I just want to point out, I can't argue again. I'm not really familiar with economics. My thing is more social. I'm not familiar with economics, so I'm gonna have to take what you guys say at face value. I really can't come up with a lot of arguments. Yeah, no. I mean, after this, I'm actually going to start looking at economics.
So this is why I have problems. I want this
responsibility and how much government should be involved in everybody's life. The anarchists, they don't want any government. They're against the law.
No, I believe in limited government. I believe in a very limited government.
Sure.
And
how about an honest government?
I would like that. I don't know if even that's possible. Look at history. I don't think there's.
I'd like to have an honest government.
That'd be awesome.
For the people.
Well, that'd be fucking awesome.
Donald Trump and the Republican Party are proposing right now to cut social services for the bottom 70% of the population.
For the bottom 70%.
And take that money and redirect it into tax cuts that are primarily going to affect and benefit the top 1%. We are at a time when we have the highest income inequality or wealth inequality that we've had in this country in over 100 years, since the age of the robber barons. And so now they want to pursue a policy that will exacerbate it and make it worse. It's exactly the wrong thing to do.
I'm not familiar with this policy. I'll look into this.
For this coming
but it has human consequences. That's the point. Is like people will die as a result, and that is why we fight.
See, and again, this rally, you're fighting the wrong people.
Trump. Trump flags.
The entire Republican
gonna be people-
Pro-Trump rally. This is a pro-Trump rally.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so people will die, therefore we fight.
The Republican
People
Party
die
is
either way, personally.
Yeah, a lot more people will die if we
Okay.
cut social services.
I don't
Well,
agree.
Grandma,
I can't agree with everything a person does.
I have to say,
And-
President Obama put me through college.
Okay.
Like, the fact that they put more money into that, I wouldn't have been able to afford to become an engineer.
Okay.
You know, and I actually worked my fucking ass off to do it,
Because that was a
right?
concern
Like,
of mine too.
you know, there
As far
are
as, like, tax
mechanisms
cuts.
in place. If we,
So I really
if we look
looked
at
into it.
society
I
and
was
say,
like,
okay, you're willing to work hard. Okay, you're willing to learn some skills.
Right.
We're going to throw resources at you so you can be of more value to our society.
Okay.
From
And
an
that's a
economic
logical thing.
Right, from an economics perspective, like it makes absolute sense to
Real
say,
median
okay,
wages are
government, we shouldn't be spending all these money on social services. What we should be doing is making sure that everybody has an opportunity, not just an opportunity, but a really good path to getting a good job, like what they have in Germany.
So
Like
I think,
everybody leaves high school with a trade. They leave high school
and
with a fucking trade.
I would be for that. I would be for that.
Right, right.
Now, I believe our education system is that it is super flawed. I don't support the education system, and you can make an argument that it was intentionally fucked for capitalist gains. And I'll actually agree with you on
Absolutely.
that.
If you take a look, when you were talking about health policy, you were saying, let's deregulate it. Well, when they, I guess back in during Bush Jr.'s term, his 8 years, they increased funding for private universities and giving financial aid. University of Phoenix and a bunch of for-profit colleges. And those basically turned out to be scams that basically siphoned federal financial aid resources into profits for
I'm familiar with these. My sister went through it. She was trying to come in.
and a lot of poor people ended up with a whole lot of student debt, and they're ending up being in grinding poverty, almost indentured servants,
I think
trying to pay off.
but I think that's a separate issue. I don't think that's necessarily on the government. That's on the college. I'm going to put the blame squarely on the colleges raising fucking rates. It's them that is the issue, not the government funding or not. I think it is the colleges that are called squarely. They are saying, okay, we can charge more, so we're going to start charging.
Take a look at private prisons, take a look at private universities, take a look at private K through 12 education. Take a look for standing here and taking it. No, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is, I think I hear where you're coming from. But what I'm saying is the effect of the policies, the public policies that you think that you support isn't consistent with the values that I hear you expressing.
And again, I'm not very political. I'm more a social person. I deal a lot more with social issues rather than political. So I'm not exactly savvy on a lot of these things. So I'm going to take what you guys are saying, and thank you guys for saying that. And I'm going to start researching it more. I almost guarantee you my opinions will change. I hope that your guys' opinions change a little bit more on
Not making assumptions. Not making assumptions about who people are or where they're coming from.
I was ready to make citizens like fruits. Right. Okay.
Zip tie, huh?
Zip cups.
Zip cups, yeah. Yeah, I can do it.
Can you put those back on my pack?
Oh.
Yeah, let me see where they're at.
So when were you, if you don't mind my asking about your service, you said you were in Afghanistan? Army or Army? What years?
I was in Afghanistan.
Wait. Say all that again. Hold on.
Just remember, thirst is the worst.
Subscribe, bitch.